So good afternoon, everyone, or good evening or good morning to anyone that's joining us from beyond British Columbia. Welcome to this Geoscience BC Community Open House, providing updates on our Central Interior Copper Gold Research Program, or CICGR, as we call it for short. I'm Richard Truman. I'm the Director of External Relations at Geoscience BC, and I'd like to begin by acknowledging that I'm talking to you from the territories of the Musqueam, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Squamish Nations, but also that the research that we're talking about here today is in the territories of many nations, including Tl'atle-T'enneh, Karasakani nations, and some of the Chilcotin communities, to name just a few. I hope you're all keeping well today. We hope to be back to meeting in person before too long, but in the meantime, we found these Zoom meetings do have some advantages. So for example, I don't think we'd be welcoming, what are we on, like 35 heading up. We had 80 people register for today. We certainly wouldn't have that many people in person. So thank you to all of you for taking the time to join us today. So this online community open house provides an update, as I said, on the Central Interior Copper Gold Research, or CICGR, as we call it. So please try and remember that one. On the program for communities, for Indigenous groups, for government staff, the mineral exploration sector, and really anyone else that's interested in minerals research in British Columbia. We will have some more detailed technical updates on each project as they complete, but this afternoon, our Vice President of Minerals, Krista Pellet, will focus on the two current CICGR projects. So they are called the Surficial Exploration Project, and then also the Identification of New Porphyry Potential Undercover in Central British Columbia project. Diane Mitchinson, who's leading on that project, is also here today to answer any specific questions you may have. Also today, we have our Manager of Minerals, Brady Clift, is here, so he can help to answer questions you may have. And a quick thank you as well to Candice Appleby, who's working in the background and working hard. Her hard work makes sure that these events are possible. Today's meeting is being recorded and will be available to watch online afterwards on the Geoscience BC YouTube channel and also on our website. By default, people are on mute and we have cameras switched off. After Krista has run through the two projects, there'll be time for questions. And we should be wrapped up by about 12:45. If you would like to ask a question, you can use the raise your hand feature here in Zoom and turn on your audio and video, or you can type a question into the chat and we'll try and make sure that we get to as many questions as we can. Before we dive into the detail, a little bit about Geoscience BC for anyone that's not too familiar with us. We're a non-profit organization set up in 2005 to generate and to share high quality, unbiased earth science research and data. And that's something that we do in collaboration with governments, with communities, with Indigenous groups, with the resource sectors, and also with academia. Our research is peer reviewed and all information and results are made public. Our research focuses on three areas: on minerals, on energy, and on water. And today, the research that we're talking about, the CICGR program, fits under our minerals focus area and our finding new resource opportunities objective. So I'm now going to pass you over to Krista Pellet. So she'll start off by talking you through what the CICGR program is, and I'll be back a little bit later on to help to facilitate any questions. So Krista, over to you.
Thanks, Rich, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this short update on our CICGR project activities. I'm coming to you today from Smoky Kamloops in the traditional territory of the Secwepemc people. I hope everyone is staying safe out there today. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what the CICGR project is, what activities have taken place in the last year, and to give you a preview on planned work for this summer and fall. In advance, I should thank Diane Mitchinson of the Mineral Deposit Research Unit at UBC and Dave Sacco from Palmer, who gave fantastic technical presentations on these two projects in April as part of the Kamloops Exploration Group Lunch Talk series, and who prepared most of the materials on the slide as I'll be using today. The CICGR project came out of a request for proposals Geoscience BC ran in late 2018. Our Minerals Technical Advisory Committee had prioritized the area between the Mount Milligan mine near Mackenzie and the Gibraltar mine near Williams Lake, as it is centered on the highly prospective Quesnel terrain that runs northwest-southeast across the province. The Quesnel terrain hosts significant copper-gold deposits. However, there's a noticeable absence or gap in mineral deposits between Mount Milligan and Gibraltar. This area was initially the focus of Geoscience BC's first major minerals project, the Quest project, back in 2007. But in 2018, it was agreed that more work could be done in the area to support mineral exploration. Next slide, please, Rich. The CICGR project is a series of earth science research projects aimed at improving the understanding of the surficial and bedrock geology of the project area, focusing mineral exploration, and supporting more informed natural resource decisions. As with all of Geoscience BC's work, all project data is made publicly available on our website. The CICGR initiative was officially launched in December of 2019 after planning and engagement work was done through Geoscience BC's Mineral Technical Advisory Committee and staff with Indigenous groups, communities in the mineral sector, and coordination with both the Geological Survey of Canada and the BC Geological Survey. As Rich mentioned, currently 2 projects within the CICGR program are underway, and I'll be giving a brief rundown of where each project is at. Next slide. So the first project I'd like to update you on is the Surficial Exploration Project, which is being led by Wayne Jackman of Noble Exploration Services Limited and Dave Sacco of Palmer. The following slides have been modified from Dave's Kamloops Exploration Group Technical Talk lunch presentation, which is available for viewing on Geoscience BC's website, and I'd encourage you to check that out for a more detailed summary of the project if you're interested in some of the technical details. Next slide. The project is focused on roughly 12 1 to 50,000 scale map sheets in central BC and expands on earlier surficial geology work supported by Geoscience BC through both the Quest and Trek projects in order to create a more continuous data set in central British Columbia. Next slide. The project area is covered by a blanket of thick glacial deposits, which obscures the bedrock geology below, which may host mineralization. The purpose of the project is to provide high quality superficial data pardon me, and context required to evaluate it and to identify reliable exploration targets through both superficial mapping and geochemical analysis. Next slide. The purpose of the Surficial Map series is to inventory and characterize surficial materials and landforms, which in turn informs resource exploration and infrastructure development. The surficial geology polygons are based on surficial material and their expression and are overlain by geomorphological process information. So an example of one of the surficial geology maps that's being produced for the project is now on your screen. And if Rich clicks, yeah, there you go. What you'll see is that from this surficial geology information, the researchers are deriving till sampling suitability maps to help guide the till sampling program, which will provide new geochemical information to support exploration in the region. In addition, drift thickness maps are being produced from each map area and provide an indication of the relative thickness of sediment cover based on the results of the superficial geology interpretations, and can be used to identify areas where deep till sampling may be necessary or inform drift-based exploration programs. Next slide. Oh, back one, there you go, perfect. Nope. Perfect. In addition to collecting new till samples as part of the Surficial program, the project has also reanalyzed over 1,000 samples previously collected and stored by the Geological Survey of Canada and the Quest project. On this map that you can see right now, the locations of the reanalyzed samples are shown as orange dots. So you can see they stretch well north of Mackenzie and quite a ways west of Williams Lake. Whereas the 6 orange rectangles centered between Mackenzie, Fort St. James, and the Prince George Vanderhoof region are where the new mapping has been done. So the new surficial geological mapping, the till sampling suitability maps, and the drift thickness maps. All that work was undertaken in 2020. So where's the project at? Originally, we'd been planned on completing the field work for this entire project last summer, but that was significantly curtailed in order to follow COVID safety protocols. In the end, the northern component of the field work was completed last summer, so roughly that map we were looking at on the last slide. And last month, Geoscience BC was able to release the first 2 reports for the project. Report 2021-03, which focuses on the surficial geology, till sampling suitability, and relative drift thickness maps. So 18 maps in total were released, as well as all the geochemical reanalysis for the archived samples. That data package was released as Geoscience BC Report 2021-09. Both of these reports are available for download on our website. Next slide. So for summer 2021, fieldwork will take place in the southern part of the CICGR project area, around the communities of Prince George and Quesnel. The field crews will be once again out collecting new samples along existing roads, mostly in existing road cuts. Geochemical analysis of the new-till samples collected last year and this year will be completed, and the plan is to release all the new geochemistry, the additional surficial geology map packages in the Prince George and Quesnel area, as well as the digital data set, all in the spring of 2022. Next slide. So that's a quick update on the Surficial Geology Project. The second project I'd like to update you on is the identification of new porphyry potential undercover in Central British Columbia project, led by Diane Mitchinson of the Mineral Deposit Research Unit at UBC. Again, like the last set of slides, these slides have been modified from Diane's Kamloops Exploration Group Technical Talk Lunch presentation, which is also available for viewing on our website. And again, I'd encourage you to check that out. Diane's also on this call today, and so if you have really specific technical questions you'd like to ask about her project, I'm sure she'd be willing to jump in and answer any questions. Next slide. So once again, the area of focus is roughly between Mackenzie in the north and just north of Williams Lake in the south. As I'd mentioned in my introduction, this is where the Quesnel terrain, a package of rocks that's prospective for copper and gold, is buried beneath the glacial sediment cover. From Diane's map here, you can see that the known mineral deposits, shown by yellow diamonds, and the mines, shown by red stars, are pretty much found to the north and to the south of the project area, with a fairly significant gap in around Prince George in the middle. It is believed that similar mineral deposits may be hidden below the glacial deposits in this big gap area. Next slide. So the goal of Diane's research is to use the existing publicly available geophysical data to better understand the relationships between the critical ore-forming rocks, their physical properties, and their geophysical responses to generate new interpretations of the geology and mineral potential in the Quesnel terrain. The project is identifying a suite of targets using magnetic data that is already available, assessing the thickness of overburden or glacial drift that covers most of the project area using geophysical data, further defining characteristics of rocks that produce anomalies in surveys, and assessing the potential to find minerals by compiling multiple types of data. Next slide. All of this is possible as there is a ton of existing public geoscience data in the area that can be used, including what you see on your screen, which is Geoscience BC's Quest project geophysical datasets, which were collected back in 2007 with the support of the Northern Development Initiative Trust. You can hit the button once, Rich, there. Mira Geoscience did inversion modeling for the Quest project area back in around 2009. Next. There's a wealth of other geophysical data collected and interpreted by the Geological Survey of Canada in the region. And click. About 5 or 6 years ago, Geoscience BC supported structural interpretations of the Quest project area. That's also available through our website. And one last click. And there's a ton of other interpretations of geological information in the project area. So Diane has a wealth of information to tap on. Next slide. So Diane has been working over the last year to identify geophysically interesting targets in the project area, being guided by patterns observed in the geophysical data to the north and the south of the area of interest. Next slide. And then she's been working to determine the geological and geophysical characteristics of the targets of interest with a focus on targets similar to those of nearby deposits. As of right now, Diane is wrapping up her research this summer. She was telling me that she's working on writing the final report, and Geoscience BC expects to publish the final report sometime this fall. No field work is planned for this project this summer. Next slide. As mentioned, information on both of these projects, including technical articles, posters, and maps and data, if they've been published, are available through Geoscience BC's website. For anyone on today's call who might be more interested in the technical detail of each project, check out the presentations I'd previously mentioned or some of the technical articles on our website, as they're able to go into a lot more detail than I was able to do here. As for what's next for the CICGR project, Geoscience BC is planning an overburden drilling program for the project area. It is expected that roughly 50 holes will be drilled in the CICGR area to sample and confirm the thickness of the glacial drift. However, this work is still in the early planning stages with lots of work to be done on consultation and permitting before it gets underway. So stay tuned over the next year for further updates. And with that, I'll turn it over to Rich to lead the questions and discussion portion of this open house. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thanks, Krista. Thanks for the update. That was a lot of information on 2 projects in a in a really short space of time. So I hope everyone was able to keep up. We have plenty of time for questions. So as I mentioned, Krista is joined by our manager of minerals, Brady Clift, who can answer some specific questions, and also by Diane Mitchinson, who's leading on one of the projects. A reminder that you can type questions into the chat. That's the easiest way for me to see the questions, or you can also use the raise hand feature, and we can ask you to turn your audio and video on, and you can ask the question directly yourselves. But to get us started, I see we have one question in the chat that's come through, so thank you to Jonathan for this one. So Jonathan is asking Krista, or sorry, Brady, probably a good one for you, this. For this year's field work in the Prince George Cornell area, how big will the samples be collected at the roadside? And how do you go about collecting a roadside sample?
Thanks, Rich. So this year, for the samples that they're going to collect, the ones that they're looking at the roadside, they're going to be looking for basal till samples. So they're basically looking for the till that glaciers peeled off of the bedrock and have deposited at the surface. So when they go to collect a sample, they're going to collect a 1 to 2 kilogram sample, and that'll get packaged up and sent off to the lab for ICP MS analysis. But they're also going to collect at least 50 stones or cobbles from the area, and those are going to be used to help determine the lithology of the bedrock that the samples came from, but also the direction that they came from, where the glacier had pushed them from. So they can hopefully find out what the actual rock is there. And then every other sample, every second sample, they're going to collect a bulk sediment sample. So that'll be a 10 to 12 kilogram sample. And those ones are used for gold grain concentrates, heavy metal concentrations, and they're going to be looking for porphyry indicator metals to determine if there's porphyry deposits that some of these rocks came from. And they're doing it the old-fashioned way. They're just driving up to the side of the road and they're grabbing a shovel and they're digging a hole. That's the best way to describe how they're doing it. So they're going to be looking at road cuts, river cuts, and occasionally they'll just be having to hop out and dig a hole about 1 meter deep and 1 meter wide and collect the sample that way.
Okay, thanks, Brady. I don't see any other questions popping up at the moment, but just one thing maybe for Krista, perhaps you could just remind everyone, once these projects are complete, how the results will be shared and who will have access to them and what you expect to happen as a result of these projects.
Sure, thanks, Rich. So yes, our method is that when we are ready to release the results, the project, everything goes live on our website. There will be a news release put out and links posted in both our project pages on the website as well as in our Earth Science viewer. And we're really hoping that this will stimulate some additional mineral exploration in the area. That's what we're sort of expecting will happen. I think we have a comment. Do we have another comment here as well, Rich?
Oh, we do. We have a long question from Stephen. So let me perhaps read this one out, because it might be easiest so you can see it all at the same time. So Steve says, the continued till mapping and sampling is great, but lumping all quaternary cover as overburden isn't going to be very helpful in new porphyry discovery in covered areas. There is a lot more than till here. We know about this. We've been talking about this in the office. What is really needed, very simply, is a modern map of the extent of the glaciolacrustine basin in the central interior, so that geochemical methods suitable to that material can be applied. That's,
yeah, absolutely, Steve. That's a great comment. Yeah. Right now, the Dave and Wayne's work is focused just on the till, but yes, absolutely, that would be a value add product as well.
Okay, and yeah, maybe just to add that, you know, this CICGR is what we would term a multi-year program. There are 2 current projects within that program, and Krista alluded to a future project that may be coming on that, but there could be other projects as part of this program in the future too. Okay, so we have another question coming through from Cade. In the upcoming drilling project mentioned at the end of the presentation, is the goal only to sample the overburden, or will the underlying bedrock also be sampled as well? Good question, Kate. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. Good question. Yes, the plan would be to sample both the overburden as well as right down to the top of bedrock.
Yeah, and Diane, I see Diane tying those 2 questions together well, saying that perhaps the drilling will aid that additional mapping that Steve was talking about as well. Okay. Oh, here's a good question coming through. We've had this question before, and I think we've got some good answers to this. So how deep do you expect the bedrock to be in this area?
That actually might be a great question to put over to Diane, as I know she's been looking at the depth to bedrock in the project area.
Hi.
Hi, Diane. We see you.
I don't know if anybody can see me or not.
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, there I am. Yeah, thanks for asking that. Yeah, so I did a sort of a regional thickness modeling for that project area. And I think that the maximum thickness of the cover is around 300 meters. But these are very localized sites where it's that thick. And I think sort of the overall outcome of it was that, you know, the overburden thickness is not, I wouldn't even call it sort of like very thick through that area. So where there would be sort of an average thickness of 50 meters. I guess maybe that is, I don't know what you would consider thick, but there are definitely some areas where it's thin, and sort of select more localized sites where it's quite thick. And some previous modeling that was done before have highlighted some of the same areas and sort of came to the same conclusions, where it's quite variable actually, and maybe people have the thought that it's very, very thick everywhere, but in fact it's not. And I think that with the maps that I'm going to release some thickness maps for the whole area and model. So I'll have sort of a depth of overburden model. So a 3D surface that people can use, and also sort of like a grid image that people can use on their GIS platforms to overlap with their other data and sort of get an idea of the thickness and areas that they might be exploring in. So yeah, it's quite variable and maybe less thick than people might imagine through the area.
Okay, thanks, Diane. I see we have another question through from Dave West. This is probably a good one for either Brady or Krista. Asking, if you're sampling on our claims, who retains the sample, and are we compensated for any minerals that are obtained? Oh, hi, Brady.
Hey, Rich, I got this one here. So the samples, we keep all the sample material that's not used in the sampling process. So it gets stored and it can be used in future sampling, just like the reanalysis that was done here. The amount of minerals that we would actually obtain from any sample would be extremely small. So it's unlikely that there would be anything that would be even worth compensating anybody for. So we would keep the sample and there wouldn't be any compensation, but because we're sampling on road cuts and other places, if we happen to be on somebody else's mineral claims, we do have an obligation to share that data with them, but we do make all our data public. So if there's anything, if you had any concerns about that, you can obviously let us know where your claims are, and we can look into getting that information directly to you for those specific areas.
Okay, thanks for that, Brady. I think I don't see any more questions coming up at the moment. So yeah, if you have any other questions, then do just drop them into the chat quickly before I go and switch everybody off. So yeah, we'll let's bring it to a close. Oh, was someone trying to say something? No? Okay, so let's bring it to a close. So thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. Great to have 40 plus people join us today. If you do have a question that we weren't able to get to, let me just make sure that we've got our contact details there up on the screen. There we go. So you can see Krista's phone number and email, and my own phone number and email on the screen there. Also, a reminder that if you want to stay up to date with Geoscience BC research, whether it's on this project or on other things, you can sign up for our email updates. If you just go to geosciencebc.com, right down at the bottom of the page in the footer is a subscribe for updates button, so you can make sure that you're getting all the latest on these projects and others in the future. Also, we post all of our big updates on social media too, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn as well. So if you follow us at Geoscience BC, then you'll make sure that you stay up to date on what we're up to. Just finally, if you missed something, or if you know someone who would have liked to have joined the session or would maybe find it helpful, we will add this session to our YouTube channel and to our website in the next couple of days. And that just all that remains is to say thank you again, and to wish you all a good afternoon and a safe afternoon. Thank you very much. Goodbye, everyone.